And then the zoo government thought that they can go free with all this. We can't permit them that. We must harm them. We must harm them. It doesn't end even after our restoration. We must continue to harm them. So this is it. And that's why we're here. We have to bear in mind that the genocide urge against us goes in line with our restoration. They are not separate. So this is it. It was true, however, because I have albino brothers, those that are fairly, like that have the color of Carol. You may not even notice that they are maybe black in color, black skin, They are the most affected with this lack of protein, kwashiorkor. They were very, very fragile to that. If those with dark skin lasted for 6 months, they have only 2 months before that. Even their belly will swell and explode. That was it.
Albinos.
Yeah, albinos. So this was how the zoo reduced our families. You can see it's a very terrible. So what is important, we have to bear in mind that this is not Photoshop. And that's the meaning of that exhibition we are talking about. It's very, very important. Here it is. Yeah, it is. It's terrible. You see? It's very, very inhuman. Very, very inhuman. And then, though there will be a chapter for all of you, because I'm very, very proud of all of you, to be sincere. This generation, you've done us great. God and history will never forget you. We know it's too early still to say that, but I don't fail to say it when I'm given the opportunity to say it. So it was a desperate situation. It was terrible, terrible. It was terrible, to be sincere. So what happened is that it is important, please. I have something to say. In August 1968, till the end of the war in 1970, why I'm trying to hammer on this point is because for us to know that what we are doing, the exhibition, genocide, is very, very serious matter. There was what British government planned with Nigeria, because while we are moving along with this exhibition, we must distinguish between British people and British government. Majority of British people were on our side. It's not an anachronism. The evidence that are there. It's only the British government policy that were against us. So the world reacted, saying, what is going on? What have these innocent people done? They're only fighting for their survival. Why are you people treating them like this? British government couldn't support the pressure being led by the rest of the world. What did they do? They adopted what they planned what they call international military observer team. So here I refer it as British stratagem. It was a maneuver campaign to distort genocide in Biafra. And UK government's justification for its support of the Nigerian government. How did they do this? They firstly launched a final offensive. They reduced us violently to nothing. Then organized this thing they duped International Military Observer Team. You can see that the observer team rendered no objective report as to whether or not genocide took place. It's important we take note of this. Then you can see I projected the images of the observers. You can see they are criminals. I went to the extent of hunting them, trying to know where they are now, who are they. I went to the extent to make a very deep, but what came out was that they were all secret agents, deadly secret agents, military secret agents hired by the British government to distort the genocide that was going on in Biafra. See all of them? They were 3 members. One is Colonel Douglas Keynes of Great Britain, Hugo Belunde of Sweden, Brigadier John Drewery of Canada. I tried to, you see that they were all criminals to do that dirty job. That's why I brought them up here. We have to bear that in mind also, that it was part of the maneuver, you know, that are targeted against our people and that are still being targeted against us. We all are eyewitness how the Ohaneze Nwodo and the cohorts, so-called Southeast governors, how they collaborated with the Arewa area boys to do what they did, to declare that third war, you know, against our people and our leader. So that's it. We move along. I don't want to dwell much on this so-called International Military Observer because they were just fake. It was something done to destroy future. Like most of these informations we have today, remember the intent was to eliminate them from. That's why in the zoo, hardly you find a text. Remember the boom of textbooks on Biafra came up thanks to our leader, Nnamdi Kanu. It was after him that we had the boom of text on this. So it's important to know that too. So you can see humanity easily grabs the wrong in a picture of dying Biafran people. Beside British USSR Nigerian cocked up complex political maneuver on genocide crimes against Biafran people, humanity easily understood that these people, there's a horrible agenda. And then they mobilize, mostly the humanitarian agencies. American Jewish Emergency Effort for Biafra Relief was formed. Those of Canada, NGOs, I'm talking about Presbyterian Church of Canada and Oxfam Canada. Those that brought the relief, thank you, my brother. Those that brought the relief, that even maybe as I'm speaking to you today, was that little relief that the few that survived that helped us to survive, you know. Maybe after you will see, it was remarkable. You will see, I'm coming to that image. Maybe when you see us today obsessed with Okporoko, that was, it was outcome of that too. Because at the time, the only food we were consuming is that the kids, they will come and give us a portion of assorted Okporoko. Yes, stockfish. Because it was one of the food they feel that can serve. It was helpful more than even giving drug. because the people you have to give drug don't have anything. I mean, their metabolism doesn't function again. So we have Das Diakonisch Weg, a German church group provided also help. They were good in that too. There's need to mention that. So there's another point that we have to remember, which we have emphasized many times. On 30th May 1967, the indigenous people of Biafra, then tagged Eastern Nigeria, through her consultative assembly, unanimously triggered her right to self-determination. It is a historical fact that Biafra, despite international complot, demonstrated to Africa and the whole world that there is no human rights more sacrosanct than that of self-determination, when all the other reasons for the survival of a human family had been threatened by an artificial political union. Remember who brought independence to the zoo was Biafran. We have to bear that in mind. So what am I trying to say? We created another history that when there was this tendency to eliminate us from the earth. Fortunately enough, after the League of Nations, that's Committee of, well, the first form of Committee of Nations, the second was the United Nations, and one of the important article, the Article 1, Paragraph 2 of their charter, of United Nations Charter, which says to develop friendly relations among nations based on respect for the principle of equal rights and self-determination of people. This is Article 1, Paragraph 2 of United Nations Charter. As of this time, 1967, no nation in the world has ever triggered it. With the horrible and inhuman experience and being led by a capable leader of such a rank of Odumego Ojukwu, he triggered this article. He triggered it. And to the world, to them, they feel that Africans don't have such ability. Who are these Africans that want to tell them that they have their right? So that was one of the problems we had in our first republic, because the colonial world or the imperialists as of that time, they couldn't believe it that an African nation can emerge and say that from today, I know my destiny. Just what we usually say. Thank you. So the point there is that, as we can see, which country, the second country that triggered this article, the second country was Bangladesh. Bangladesh did hers few months after our surrender. Remember, we surrender because of the inhumanity merited against us. We can never, and we have never surrendered our sovereignty. And if we are here today, it's because we hold, our leader has taught us that our sovereignty is perennial. No one can take it away from us. So Bangladesh was the second, and they were fortunate because the Asian countries, were more vigilant than those of Africans. They unanimously backed Bangladesh. And the United Nations had nothing to say. And to Bangladesh is one of the recognized nations, but it's important we understand that they learned that from us. We had stumbling blocks because Eritrea, that is an independent nation today, was at that time pinching Emperor Haile Selassie, who was the emperor of Ethiopia. So what they were saying is that as Biafra tend to set this wonderful example, many of those colonial stooges who pretended to be African leaders, and you have seen where history relegated them today, we are doing things that never favored the African people. And we have to be proud of ourselves. We are Biafrans. So we must have to match up. Well, that it was a war fought by international humanitarian organizations. Maliciously, they say that. But what I intend saying is that thanks to them that few were able to survive. We have the Irish Catholic Holy Ghost Fathers, African Concern, International Committee of the Red Cross. We have the Red Cross, not Church Aid. That's a Protestant church from Denmark, Finland, Norway, Sweden. These people reacted against their government because they didn't understand what is going on. Why should we be killing human beings and kids? Not that you were attacking soldiers. Why? It means the agenda is clear. Later we shall even see the reaction of Nelson, who later became the president of the United Nations. He made a public declaration on this. So our meeting in Germany since yesterday, this is one of the pivotal issues that we must go home with today. So we have a lot of them. Remember our, I don't know, but pardon me if I make a mistake, our Jewish elder brothers, I don't know if we are the elder brothers or they are our elder brothers, but I remember our brothers, the Jewish people, they have what they call the tree for good people of various nations. Yeah, we shall have ours at the appropriate time. Thank God that Dr. Kachi is very, very eloquent, and so we shall have ours, tree for good people of humanity.
One name or number.
That's it. So that's it. We must have at the appropriate time. We can't forget these people, and we are seriously recording it. So you see one of them, something like is famous. When you see Medicine Sans Frontières, something like Bernard Kouchner, who later formed, many of you have heard about MSF, Medicine Sans Frontières. The founder was Bernard Kouchner. He was an ICR operator. He protested against Nigerian government that why are you not seeing the humanity being meted against it? Because of that, even he went to the stand of resigning, and it was from the experience that the terrible experience he had in Biafra that made him to have what we have today, Medicine Sans Frontières. So that's it. Then another thing is that this is, as I said, that British people, we must have to distinguish that between British government policy and British people. This is a famous Oxfam's public statement. Oxfam is a British NGO. That's the International Humanitarian Organization. This was one of the, what you see there, it was a publicity that even they carried over the television, the media. What Britain must now face is that the price for a united Nigeria is likely to be millions of Biafra lives. This was a 1969 public statement made by Oxfam. So, not made by IPOB, but by Oxfam. We have to bear that in mind. I remember they didn't hide. They were, what you see here, they were in Piccadilly Square. They were in Piccadilly Square. See it even in their postcard. We didn't write it, genocide. This war must stop. These were British people. This was on December 24, 1969. So you can see a genocide. We didn't write it here. But then, why all these things were evident and clear? Remember, the Nigerian government, we had terrible stolen economic instrument. Their objective is destruction. Destruction. The only person that they were unable to destroy is our leader, Mazen Nnamdi Kanu. And that's why we're here today. So where you can see, this was our, you can even Herald, this was a kind of fundraising, you know, pause still in our, nude manner, you know. Well, however, this was a fund appeal by Evening Standard to see how to assist us. So these were the, remember that for me again. Relief flights, you know. These are one of the relief flights, you know. So it was, I just included it in the image because many of them later were even abandoned at Venanda Po. Up till now, you know, even there was a time someone was calling that if Biafrans can come around and make that a monument too, because it's still lying in Venanda Po, you know, after we surrendered most of these things, you know. So this is important. The Biafrans have gained a great deal of international sympathy by claiming that the federal government of Nigeria are bent on a policy of genocide. This sympathy throughout Europe and North America has led to widespread and most embarrassing criticism of Her Majesty's government on policy. As I'm saying here, that we must be able to distinguish over Her Majesty's British government policy and then the British people. But what is clear is that there's an evidence to show that the British people were on our side. Because as you can see, immediately after the war, when even the Harold Wilson, I think is his name, the then British Prime Minister, he sought for re-election and they didn't elect him. So, but it's symbolic, although his damages has been already, you know, carried before that time. But we have to also put that in history. So, in particular, the government's defense of armed sales was criticized intensely inside and outside British Parliament. The Archbishop of Westminster and Canterbury called for a ban on arms supplies to Nigeria. In May 1968, the Church of Scotland Assembly unanimously called for the end of arms sales to Nigeria. And one speaker claimed the arms supplies would link Britain's name in history with premeditated massacre. And they are hiding away from this. We must hunt them down.
Of course, we must.
The Guardian argued in July 1968 that stopping the arms is therefore the best way to save Biafrans from both slaughter and starvation. So thanks today that we are seeing this, we have to appreciate the media too. It was report of the press and photo reporters that were able to have most of the images. And then we may say that this tidal wave of journalistic interest was brilliantly delivered by the Biafran government and its public relations firm, the Mark Press. As of that time, the Biafran public relations firm was known as Mark Press. So they were carefully and humbly that they diffused all this information. And thanks to that, in various World National Archive today, we can be able to have trace of most of these things that happen. Sometime I've overheard, I'm sorry for making reference to Dr. Gatti because I know he has a very, very, great interest on these researches too, relating most of the parliamentary, sittings. Outspoken British parliamentarians and the laws, they didn't keep silence. They questioned most of the time, though we may say that is political, but still we have to record them. Something like on 11 June 1968 in the House of Commons, one MP asked the Foreign Secretary whether he was aware of the depth of feeling in the country that arms supplied to the Nigerian government should be cut off so that we should not be a party to the slaughter. They were avoiding genocide, but here masking it with slaughter. Still, slaughter is genocide. You can't slaughter human beings.
Slaughter.
Yeah. Another asked him to reconsider policy on this point, particularly now when the dangers of massive slaughter appear to be broadening over the scene. A day later, an MP argued that it has now become a war leading to possible extermination of a race. This is not an IPOB statement. Another said that so long as we are sending arms, we are partly responsible for the bloodshed. So we can now start to have a clear picture of our exhibition. That is an instrument to reveal a hidden truth. That's what we are doing. We have, this is British citizens, people like Carol, that we have here today. As we can say, all of us, we know John Lennon and Yoko Ono. Because of Biafra, he made a very important gest, similar to that of Akanibian. We can't forget these people. We can't silence them. This is very, very important because it has never happened. This is called Remembrance Sunday in Whitehall. It's a kind of important annual remembrance that Britain normally, does every year. In this case, this was on November 1969. They said that at the end of this year's 2-minute silence, demonstrators shouted, "Remember Biafra." They were quickly taken away by the police because no other time such has happened around Buckingham Palace, that maybe the royal family, Her Majesty's there. So it all took place only 50 feet from where the Queen was standing near the cenotaph. So this is the Duchess of Gloucester and the King of, so that's it. It's symbolic also. And then, as we can see, this is the American version. The American citizens were in silence. Here in August 18, 1968, the placards, as all of us, we are familiar with that because we have done a very good job over that. Their own placards is reading, it reads, "Don't let the lies go out on the children of Biafra. Apathy kills," which is what we are still suffering today. They are seeing the inhuman treatment that are being meted against us. They will wait till when we are denuded, and in such a very inhuman mood, maybe they may call, so apathy kills. They know that, and then we must have to fight against this. So this was what the town 1,000 demonstrators protest at 48th Street and Park Avenue in New York. So this is the present reality. And then this was a postcard that I made. Republic of Biafra, US support of Biafra exit. US support of Biafra persists despite oddities. We demand more from United States as we demand more from Israel. But up to now, we have not seen enough. But notwithstanding all these oddities, we still believe and strongly, hope that they will come in at the appropriate time. Maybe we are still doing our homework. So you can see here, it's important that I read out this. This was a statement made by Nelson. He called that statement, Call for American Action on Biafra by Richard Milhouse Nelson. This was on the 9th of September, 1968. Let's listen to the statement. The terrible tragedy of the people of Biafra has now assumed catastrophic dimensions, but genocide is what is taking place right now.